everyone, and welcome to the Červená Barva Press book launches. And I'm Gloria Mindock, editor and publisher. And today we are celebrating two new books by Ruth Chad and Brad Rose. Both of these writers have had numerous publications in literary journals, and they've been nominated for pushcart prizes. In the absence of birds and words in edgewise, these are the second books I published by both these writers. For Ruth, this is her first full length, and Brad has had numerous flash fiction and poetry books published. So I want to show you their books. I'm so excited. This is Ruth's. And this is Brad's. And we're going to start out with Ruth. And I would like to read a blurb that was written for her book by Lawrence Kissinich, who is here today. And he's a wonderful playwright and writer. And he has won Ireland's Strokestown International Poetry Prize. He says, Ruth Chad chooses her words with great care to create gem-like poems. Although gems are cool and hard, her poems are warm and full of heart. They are also full of sensual detail, ranging across life experiences, from peeling a ripe plum to watching her mother fade away in a nursing home. Whatever the situation, simple or profound, Ruth draws us right into it with her, generously sharing what she sees, hears, smells, tastes, and feels, compelling us to experience it with her. So I'd like to introduce you to Ruth.
Thank you, Gloria. Thank you so much for the beautiful work you and Červená Barva Press did on my behalf. And a shout out to your partner, Bill. Bill designed the cover and did what I felt was just a wonderful job of that. And I also want to thank Eric Hyatt, who is here today. Hi, Eric, for his tireless editing and support and kindness. He read every poem in this book and is just an amazing poet in his own right and a wonderful editor. So thank you, Eric. I'd like to start today with a poem which captures one of the main themes of my book, which is really about our delight in nature and our fear and sadness at watching its demise as the planet warms. And I know we all worry about it. It's called This Simple Plum, Prunus Domestica. In my hands, the goddess of plums, peel taut, pulled tight as a drum, purple of dusk's dome peeling back the cover on crimson flesh, summer's shameless striptease, loosening fibers, binding pulp to skin, sweet sap running down my chin. This simple plum has come from summer dust, from humble hands. I hold its succulence, offering of the sun, of the rain, as if the air were not thinning, as if the rivers were not flooding, and we could be here forever with the plum tree, delivering fruit to the barrel. The next poem is a poem I wrote about carrying a child. And now that my daughter Emma is carrying her own child, I would like to dedicate this poem to my daughter Emma. And the first one is from my point of view, and the next one after that is from Home in Utero. A mother's journey. You were nub of heart, essence of the word. I carried you deep within me, your slender lungs reaching for air, each glimmering line linking bone to tendon, action to response. And I always on my journey, In the way of silkworms, I wove silken thread, the warp and weft, morning and night, substance from inchoate being, and carried you, a slim new reed, raw and tender, to wave and bend in wind, but never wilt. I gave what I found. I nurtured what needed me. You were nub of heart, essence of the word. Home in utero. Like a reed I grew, groped and grasped for my strength, waved and bent in wind, but never wilted. I slaked my thirst from wet clay and riverbed, needing just a flash of sunlight, photosynthesis complete. This is a poem I wrote for my mother in memoriam. My mother was a really unusual housewife, an amazing reader, and wonderful gardener. And I got my love of books and reading from my mom. And she was just a wonderful person. So, and I grew up in Côte Saint-Luc in Montreal. This is called Our Garden in Côte Saint-Luc. I could take you back to where the bearded irises grew in a rowdy yellow row in green air, heady with dusty pollen, where you would come with your scissors to snip the coral peonies, sticky with sweet syrup, black ants feasting on their whorled petals. Swarming the sand hills, they always seemed to know what to do. I wonder if you too admired the ants, their intuitive order, synchronized design. I could return you to where the raspberries grew wild along the wooden fence, give you back the flush of your cheeks in high summer, the round and rows of ripe pomegranates. This next poem came from, originally inspired by a New York Times article about the diminution of birds in North America by almost 30%. And when my husband and I were in Utah, we stepped out on our cabin porch and it was weirdly quiet. And this poem came to me. And it's the title poem of the book. In the absence of birds, Bryce Canyon, Utah. There's an unnatural quiet between the bleached stones. White light leaks into cracks. Not even a scrabble of weightless claws on sandstone cliffs. Clouds empty of beak and wing, feather and claw. Only shadows, apparitions, dying in fluid flight, blown by the wind, carried up and over the world. The birds have betrayed silence in the forest of pinyon and fir, mourning on the mountain. This poem I wrote in the MFA, and it's pretty self-explanatory. It's called Beech Trees in Fall by Christian Rolfs, oil on canvas. In 1937, Christian Rolf's work was condemned by the Nazis as being degenerate. Lush leaves, blade chiseled in crimson and ochre, alive in the space between beeches, swirling flames, swallowing silver bark. The cobalt sky, brushing the cobalt sky, taupe trunks knotted, tethered to the forest floor, to the dark earth. I know their story, what the blue light behind them reveals. Gnarled trees growing in the midst of horror. And this is a poem I wrote when we were traveling in Colombia in 2017. We were in a town which our guide was very knowledgeable about because he grew up in it during the drug war. And also the picture on the cover of the book was taken in Medellin, Colombia, the same time we were traveling, while Medellin was being revitalized after the drug war. after Pablo Escobar's destruction. Traveling in Colombia, 2017. Omar says there were always bullets. In Salento, bloated villager bodies floated on the back of the dark, thick river. Skin unfolding, molting, shedding its color, tattoos of their lives. On Sunday mornings, the priest dragged his black robes through dust. Out of the white church, blessed the souls deposited like silt along the riverbanks. Do not worry, he said. God will protect you. In Salento's torrid heat, I see the killing everywhere. Tin roofs roast in searing sun. Black, waxy vines creep along the walls of hot houses. Bougainvillea, fuchsia puffs, dried blood. This poem is called A Burdock Leaf, after Janet Malcolm's photographs. Each moment, the measure of fiber and tissue, the white space left after the leaf is eaten by insects. The negative of green is the empty space seen, then disappeared. The body and the shadow, what's here and what's not, sinews tied and let loose. Any burdock leaf is more than what it is not. Its holes and ragged edges are signs of first becoming, then unraveling. And this poem is a hopeful poem. It's a poem I wrote for kind of all of us when life feels very, very troubling. It's called A Balm for Sadness. Rain gathered in the white vase I left out after watering. Rain that flowed over lilac and Andromeda, a heavy scent. I will save this water, alchemy of cloud and mist, cool harvest of the sky for the next dry blooms. Hear its music spill back into black earth. This is a poem I wrote for my mother when we were in Puerto Rico, and I was just walking along the beach and looking at everything around me, and this poem just came to me. It's called On Rio Grande Beach, after my mother's death. My shadow and my mother's merged on shimmering sand. We are tilting into the light. Driftwood petrified, gleaming white, a deposit of whelk, ibis circling. My shadow and my mother's merged. My voice in the wind, I can speak, but she can't hear on shimmering sand. Crimson-lipped leaves of a sea grape open into briny morning. We are tilting into the light. I am searching her glow in the sheen of every iridescent shell. My voice in the wind, sea stars dead. Yet the flesh seems so alive. My shadow and my mother's merged. We are tilting into the light. This poem is just simply called Love Poem. I wish I could have you this way just for a moment. Quiet evening, our hands entwined, skin touching skin. Under the twilight sky full of swallows, their slim, pointed wings strobing the violet light over us into a fugue. And this is another poem I wrote on the theme of climate change. It's called Poem Written in My 69th Year. I stand beneath the bowing beach, new buds attach. Rust-red gills breathe the heavy air, laden with methane and ozone in a nest of thin branches, dark braided vines whose geometry makes me dizzy. I bend to slim shoots wrapped in silken fiber, tended by a scarlet sun. This heat we know, this heat we ignore. I raise my eyes to the darkening dome above me, seeking a path to restore. Scents of musk and rot rise from the darkness below, from the warming earth, the drying soil, where decay meets desire. This poem is very straightforward, and I was doing what I love most in the world, almost, which was planting in my garden. It's called To Plant a Lupine at Twilight in the Company of the Earthworm. 1. Dig down into the dark, naked hands embedded. Let your fingers make the hole wide and full. Give birth to roots. Let them wind and spread, a tangle of hair-lined ropes. 2. Lumbricina, slime and moisture, slithers smoothly on their belly. Rough with seta that bristle, protect, move them. Do not interrupt their rounds. 3. Gently, firmly envelop the tender seedlings of lupinus, which you have brought to this moment. Microbonnets, folded clusters of purple velvet, sweep in the earth, wait with the patience of trees for full flowering. You have planted immortality. This was another sad story I read in the New York Times. I think I should stop reading the New York Times. It's called Humanity Legally Challenged. Teresa L. Todd, an elected official, government lawyer and single mother in a desert border region near Big Bend National Park, pulled over to help Central American migrants, was arrested. In the New York Times, May 10th, 2019. She stopped to give them warmth, water, to dispel fear. They're just kids. Along the blacktop cactus grows tall, erect, dagger spines, border guards, dogs. She said they were lost. She went to be their eyes, to shield, to guide. She stopped so they could rest. Arid soil in drought, water so low, dripping slow. She stopped to wipe away the dust on their eyelids, the dust in their dry mouths. She stopped to heal. White dust covers the window of a cruiser. Taken in cuffs like wraiths, they disappeared into the cold desert night. Another poem I wrote for my mother. Summer and my mother. Her garden, the iris, unfolding furls of violet, strokes of sun-soaked yellow on lanced petals, shadows of plum on heavy honeysuckle, her voice weaving through peonies, floating on summer and heat waves. I plant the shoots, pack dark soil around the roots. My voice, her voice, my hands, her hands. And I'd like to finish with one last poem called Life Cycle, which I think for me just kind of expresses something about my experience of simply living every day. Life cycle. Each second an unveiling, rich black tuber coaxed into thin green air, red-winged blackbird trilling in bleached bulrushes. Her eggs will break and the nest fall into dust. And the nest fall into dust. Her eggs will break, trilling in bleached bulrushes, red-winged blackbird, into thin green air, coaxed, rich black tuber, each second an unveiling. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ruth. That was wonderful. It's so nice to hear your poems read out loud. It comes to life for me. So
Thank you
so
Gloria.
much.
So beautiful, Ruth. So glad we could be here to share in this.
Oh, I'm so glad you are too. Thank you. Hi, Stefan. Great to see you.
Wonderful. Wonderful, Ruth. Great to hear you reading them. It really was
Thank you.
special.
Thank you so much.
Ruthie, your
Hi.
poems are heartfelt. I love the poems about your mom, having known your mom over the years. And I love the poem you wrote about being a mother and carrying Emma in your womb. And you just bring it to life. I'm really amazed at how talented you are as a poet. You just are incredible.
Thank you, Kenny. Thank you so much.
Okay, we will have comments and that at the end if you'd like, or you could ask the readers any questions you want to, and that would be very nice if you stay and do that. I know they would love it. And so could I ask you to remute yourselves, please?
Bravo.
Thanks, Joe.
And our next reader is Brad Rose. And I'd like to read a blurb that Howie Good wrote. And Howie is author of Famous Long Ago and The Bad News First. Brad Rose's word in edgewise displays the madcap features that readers have come to relish in his work. Fast talking, unreliable narrators, and surreal situations depicted with a brittle sympathy and manic humor. When it comes to prose poetry, Brad Rose plays, to borrow his own phrase, first violin in the orchestra of the absurd. And I'm really happy to introduce you to Brad Rose.
Thanks very much, Gloria. I really appreciate it. And it's really an honor to appear with Ruth, whose work is going to be impossible to follow because of its beauty. I'm going to read, excuse me, 9 pieces, and these are prose poems. So they're not lineated. They're in block paragraphs, if you want to imagine that. And as Howie said, my work is a little surreal. The first piece, I'm just going to read through these, is called Prime Real Estate. It's a medium to extra large night. Like shoe trees in bloom, something mysterious is afoot. Perhaps it's a circular trend or a movie played backward about a swinging pendulum. Since my name change, I feel like a bunch of short stories without a table of contents. Sometimes it's hard to make ends meet. The sad part is I really like stealing. It's like continental philosophy, although I'm not afraid to look you in the eye while I'm doing it. I'm in no position to offer career advice, but I can tell you it's totally unnecessary to kill people while they're on screen. All the best actors wear body cams, most out of convenience than conviction, even in the minor personalities. Which reminds me, the doctor's office called this morning and left a message about your upcoming head transplant. Maybe that's why you look strangely familiar to me. Like they say, location, location, location. Why rent when you can own? Paradise Mobile Home Park, Albuquerque, New Mexico. I'm the kind of person water can't wait to drown. Occasionally, I'm mistaken an inanimate object for a pet, but no harm done. Thursday, I stopped by the funeral home, just briefly, to heckle. At first, it was fun. Then, like a runaway dog, the fun was gone. I have no idea what the hospitality industry is. I want to get various projects off the ground. Discipline is everything. Since the hunting accident last fall, I like to keep my hands right in front of me where I can see them. My next-door neighbor's wrists are tiny, thin as the bones of a sparrow. She's younger than the other occupants. Prettiest damn thing. Most days I'm relaxed. I don't have an enemy in the world. You can see for yourself. Hey, what do you say we go outside and shoot a few rounds? It'll be just like old times. Only this time, nobody will get hurt. Promise. Nobody's perfect. Like my hat, my head is bigger on the inside than the outside. Damn cowboy music. After I reprimer the doghouse and water the astroturf, things are going to be a lot different around here. I'll stop my internet shopping for suicide notes and try my hand at Powerball. With that 750 million prize money, Amber and I will move out of this mobile home faster than a donut on training wheels. Amber says it's not really a mobile home, it's a trailer. Bless her heart. Her brother's funeral would have been a lot prettier if the cops had used rubber bullets. I've always said you really shouldn't go looking for death, but nobody's perfect. As we bowed our sorry heads, the mosquitoes laughed like hyenas in the blood-damp air. Ants. Tiny feet scurry toward the tunnels of home, like motorists crying and driving. The sky is asleep, the day hourless. If they could speak, I'm sure they would ask, where are the bachelorettes? But they're carrying little boulders in their jaws, the way a lion carries an impala by its broken neck. I wish they would relax. They have so much potential. The unstopping frenzy of their hurried lives, as if they belong somewhere else. Once in a lifetime. Who's to say that these good, honest houses, painted milk white, aren't shivering behind their warm, worried windows? Although a rally has been planned to promote neighborly disharmony, the angry rabble's chants are likely to be chanted in alphabetical order. Of course, each thunderstorm at first appears as an ersatz electrical problem. The wild chemistry of the lightning's musculature soon hammers the correct answer into place. Consider the benefits of noise. Although everything is made of inflected electrons, the precursive light is much too pretty for its own good, especially amid the riot of the architectonic clouds. In fact, the faster I go, the more time happens all at once. There's a story whispering inside my blood. Only the dead are silent enough to tell it. Of all the times you imagine you're going to die, you're only right once. Debt. I magnetize myself. Now I'm afraid to sleep. What if somebody comes looking for me? They may need a sharper hook. I'm a pretty good guesser, but there's no perfect time for the future. Sometimes it feels like my arms are shrinking to fit my sleeves. Other times it feels like it's probably my memory acting up again. That's why whenever I wreck a car, I know it's not my fault, especially blue cars. I swear, this is the last time I'm going to run out of aliases. Mr. Secret, that's what I'll tell them. Mr. Top Secret. On the way over here, I hammered a few nails just to get the hang of it. Jesus was a carpenter, you know, but I hope to have better luck. Francine says I look like an electrical problem. She's the best accent I ever had. I told her no matter how big the ocean is, you can never have enough islands. My cousin, Buddy, was in the Navy. On a night watch off the coast of Kodiak, he fell overboard. Never found his body. He had a big gambling debt, owed money to nearly everybody in the whole crew, even the captain. Sharks always swim toward the bloodiest chum. The right conditions. Ricky's back, and he looks like he always did, like a rusty hinge on a jail cell door. The first thing he did when he got out was to go to Duke's and order a Jack Daniels over ice. He said he missed the sound of ice cubes melting. When I asked him what he'd learned from his 10-year bit, he'd said, "First impressions are so important." I watched him at the bar. As he smoked, he was still as a dressed knife. The threads of nicotine curled around his wrist like a handcuff. The newspapers had said that when confronted by the cops, Ricky's partner had mistakenly shot himself. I wanted to ask Ricky about that, but I knew what he'd say. People don't commit suicide in the middle of a bank robbery by shooting themselves in the back. So I asked Ricky what he liked best about his first day as a free man here in Detroit. He said, the conditions are always right for revenge. Love's levitation. Although my body is an anchor, it's beginning to float. The darkness is a dim, fragile music. When I speak, things unhappen. If you listen carefully, you may hear voices in my skin. There are different kinds of secrets. They conceal something no one knows, the way a dream conceals sleep from the sleeper. Like rain, it's nothing personal. It occurs to me that there has been a change of address. I'm closer now to a beginning, a storm without lightning or clouds. The air is loneliness. Birds fall from the flesh of the sky. I think only of you. And the last piece is called It All Depends. Admiring the corporality of animals or parked in the ghost car, I have an indoor question. How many misspelled thoughts must I have anyway? There's nothing more beautiful than wanting the impossible to be true, especially when it is. Time passes faster in the mountains than by the sea. Like a drowned body, the sky's blue prairie floats overhead, wind light as confetti. Maybe we should take a drive to the beach, go for a swim. I don't want to give away the ending, but I can tell you it's a beauty. No one attends their own funeral. Know what I'm saying? By the way, that outfit looks good on you. Although it all depends on how you look at it. Thank you.
Thank you, Brad. I always love the way your brain works. And it's so wonderful to hear those read out loud too. Thank you so much.
Thanks very much, Gloria.
You're welcome. Let me put everyone on gallery. There we go. So can we give our readers another round of applause?